It's hard to imagine now, but there was a time in American history when capitalism didn't just feel unfair, it felt unstable, almost dangerous. The country was getting richer faster than anyone else on Earth, but that wealth was piling up in the hands of a tiny elite. For everyone else, life was a grind, dangerous jobs, wild swings between boom and bust, and a political system that seemed owned, lock, stock, and barrel, by the men controlling the money. This wasn't just inequality, it was imbalance, the kind that bends a society until it's ready to snap. And back then, it felt like the government couldn't do a thing. The oligarchs were too powerful, the political machine too corrupt, the system too entrenched. Yet somehow, America tried something radical to save capitalism before capitalism destroyed the country. Welcome to Money Chronicles, where money, power, and history collide, and nothing is ever as simple as it looks. To really understand how close the country came to breaking, we have to go back to the late 1800s. The nation was booming, railroads stitched the continent together, steel poured into factories and skyscrapers, oil lit the world, and big finance fueled it all, the birth of a modern economy. But that growth came with a dark twin. Private empires were rising faster than the national one. Rockefeller didn't just dominate oil, he controlled it. J.P. Morgan didn't just run a bank, he could move the entire economy with a phone call. Carnegie, Gould, and others didn't just compete, they crushed competition. Wealth wasn't just concentrated, it was weaponized. Meanwhile, life for the working class was almost dystopian. 12 to 14-hour shifts were normal. Coal miners inhaled death. Steel workers died quickly. Children as young as 8 were sent into factories and mines, not because parents were cruel, but because survival demanded it. No safety regulations, no social protections, no unemployment insurance, no minimum wage. If you died, the company replaced you. If you protested, private detectives, militias, or federal troops showed up. The economy grew, but it punished the people powering it. And the political system? It offered little relief. Senators were effectively for sale. Newspapers were bought. Courts often sided with corporations. Democracy wasn't dead, but for many Americans it looked like a subsidiary of railroads, steel companies, and banks. Then came the crashes. The Panic of 1873 triggered a 6-year depression. Banks collapsed, railroads failed, unemployment soared. In 1893, hundreds of banks and thousands of businesses vanished almost overnight. The Great Strike of 1877 saw workers and militias clash across multiple cities. These weren't small problems, they were systemic failures. Americans started to realize the economy wasn't just unfair, it was fragile and increasingly controlled by private interests powerful enough to steer or crash the entire system. But here's the part people often forget. The country didn't give up. Ordinary Americans, journalists, reformers, lawyers, unions, and even some presidents pushed back. The Gilded Age didn't collapse under its own weight. America confronted it. The first crack came in 1900 with the Sherman Antitrust Act. On paper, it was simple. Conspiracies and trade restraints were illegal. In practice, it was nearly impossible to enforce at first. Courts were hostile, corporations evasive, political will weak. But the real win wasn't enforcement, it was the message. The economy wasn't just private property of a few men. Public arenas have rules. Then came the muckrakers, journalists exposing the system's abuses. Ida Tarbell tore apart Standard Oil. Upton Sinclair horrified the nation with The Jungle, revealing the meatpacking industry's horrors. Public opinion shifted. Reform became urgent, not optional. The turning point was Theodore Roosevelt. Energetic, aggressive, and almost theatrical, he understood that a president couldn't just enforce rules, he had to shape the story of what a fair economy looked like. When he took on the Northern Securities Company, he wasn't just filing a lawsuit, he was announcing that the era of untouchable private empires was over. He strengthened railroad regulation, expanded federal oversight, and redefined the presidency as a counterweight to corporate power. Even Roosevelt couldn't stop every crisis. The Panic of 1907 froze the financial system, but it was J.P. Morgan, not the government, who stepped in, coordinating a private bailout. One man had too much power, and America realized it. By 1913, the Federal Reserve was born, not as some abstract tool, but as a direct response to the danger of private individuals controlling the economy. Labor reform followed too. Child labor laws, workplace safety standards, workers' compensation, the 8-hour day, and the 16th Amendment, the federal income tax, gave the government a way to challenge the sheer scale of oligarchic wealth. For a while, it worked. America didn't dismantle capitalism, it disciplined it. It made the system serve the many, not just the few. But history has a habit of circling back. Over decades, the guardrails faded, regulation weakened, antitrust enforcement slowed, unions collapsed, tax cuts for the wealthy piled up, campaign finance rules weakened, deregulation returned. The progressives' work quietly eroded, step by step, decade by decade. And the results are clear today. The top 1% of Americans holds nearly 40% of national wealth. The bottom half holds around 2 to 3%. 19 of the richest families added roughly $1 trillion to their wealth in 2023 alone. The architecture of inequality from the Gilded Age has been rebuilt, taller, sleeker, global, and insulated from pressure. Labor pressures look familiar too. No children in coal mines, but wages have stagnated. Housing and healthcare costs soar. Millions bounce between gigs and unstable work. In some places, child labor protections are being rolled back. Different industries, different language, but the pressure feels the same. Meanwhile, corporate power has evolved beyond imagination. Standard Oil is now big tech. U.S. Steel is private equity. Railroad trusts are digital platforms controlling supply chains, data flows, retail, and entire ecosystems. The political system struggles to regulate them, not because the laws don't exist, but because enforcement is weak, lobbying is strong, and the ideology of let the market handle it is bipartisan. And here we are, staggering wealth, fragile labor, political capture, and rising frustration. A second Gilded Age dressed in modern clothes, but the playbook is the same. It's tempting to feel hopeless, but here's the lesson history gives us. Transformation is possible. The first progressive era didn't rely on luck, charity from the wealthy, or invisible market corrections. Reform happened because people demanded it. Journalism exposed abuses. Politicians acted under pressure. Crisis forced action. Those forces haven't disappeared, they're just dormant. Antitrust laws, labor protections, safety nets, financial regulation, they're still there. The system isn't impossible to fix. The question is whether people have the will to do it. History shows the pendulum swings back. Extreme inequality can't last forever without consequences, and that's where hope comes in. The rules of capitalism aren't set in stone. They're human-made, and what humans make, humans can change. The last time inequality looked this extreme, America didn't give up. It fought back. It rewrote the rules. It forced capitalism to serve the many instead of the few. That's not nostalgia. That's precedent. If this gave you a new perspective, hit subscribe. History has the answers. I'll show you where to look.